All right, we're going to go over two of the signs in your astrology that contribute to most of your suffering. Okay? Most of the challenges that you have to deal with, most of all that stuff. Okay? The more harder news that comes with astrology. Okay, so I'm just trying to get the filter on, but it's not letting me. So I'm just going to continue from here. All right. So malefics in astrology. I know it sounds a little scary. It's not that bad. It's just the title for this situation we have. Everyone has one in their chart. Okay. And the two malefic planets or placements in your astrology are first Mars. Okay, now this depends on what kind of chart you have. So not everyone has a malefic Mars. Okay, and this is going to be those who are born at the daytime. Okay, so if you're born at the daytime, Mars is going to be one of the greatest challenges in your astrology when it comes to your life. And it's all going to be associated with the house that it's in. Okay, so we have the 12 houses, right? And whatever house your Mars is in is going to be specifically testing you. Specifically testing you in that area of life. So for instance, if we had a Mars in the 7th house, there's a lot of conflicts here when it comes to relationships, long-term commitments with other people, partners, marriage. Okay, that's an example. If you have a Mars in the 3rd house, it has this tendency to have with you and your siblings to have a lot of conflicts, a lot of just like not forgiving each other and being very apart. Okay, so it depends on what house is your Mars in, and again, those who are born at daytime. Okay, so if you have a daytime chart, and the easiest way to know if you have a day chart is looking at where the sun is in your chart, or of course the time, right? But it's a very it's really the official way to know, because even if you're born around sundown or sunrise, you need to consider this, right? Because it's kind of like a transitionary era. Time of the day. So what happens is that if you have the sun on the top part of your chart, you're born at the daytime, if it's above the AC/DC line. And if it's in the bottom half of your chart, you are born at nighttime. Okay, so depending on that, if you are born at daytime, look over your Mars. Look to see what house is in, and you'll start noticing that a lot of karmic patterns, a lot of the tests in your life have to do with this Mars. Now, the Mars here, it manifests in certain ways. It's not necessarily testing you so much when it comes to like your resources. Okay, I do say that that's kind of like a fortunate side to those who are born at daytime with the Mars malefic. What Mars does, because it's the planet of war, it's mainly about conflicts with others. Okay, so a Mars at daytime is considered more fiery. It's considered more aggressive and kind of like a little out of control. And so it's so much out of control that, again, it tests people within that house that they have so much. And you do want to look at the zodiac sign it's in too, because that's going to give you kind of like the theme to understanding how it's going to, like, in what kind of like character is going to associate itself in. And so with a Mars daytime, again, it's conflicts. It can be can say it's like quarrels, but I'm thinking of like another word. Arguments. All right, and that is something that's going on directly to those who are born at daytime. So that's something to look out for. It's really one of the biggest tests that you're gonna have in life. And so those who are born at daytime, do consider this. Look at the house that your Mars is in, and look towards look, back at your life and notice how many times you had conflicts through that house, through that area in your life. Okay, again, you want to look at your birth chart and look to see where your Mars is in. This is if you're born at daytime. This is something that modern astrology doesn't like to get into. They probably they don't officially have it in their astrology, we can say, because it's kind of like the more raw, real part of astrology that needs to be considered, while modern astrology just likes to focus on the happy kind of spiritual side of it. But there's the real part, the horoscope, and the evolving of the soul to understand life lessons. And again, this is where a lot of the karma comes in. Life lessons to learn from, that if you don't learn from, can lead to repeating patterns. Okay, so Mars is something, again, for those born at daytime, you want to control it. You want to kind of suppress of that part of it that's getting out of hand. Okay, so those who are born at nighttime have a different problem. And I would say the problem is it's a little harsher to deal with. Okay, so those who have night chart people, okay, born at night, they have a malefic Saturn. Okay, Saturn is the planet of foundations in life. It is the planet that rules the long term. It rules karma too. Saturn is a planet of discipline, and something that it requires work and patience. So for those born at nighttime, the situation here is that Saturn is malefic in this point, right? And its harsher sides manifest into these people's lives. And what does it do? Well, Saturn is very good at limits and long-term, like, tests. Everything that has to do with time, as Saturn rules time. And so night charts or night people are going to, the working here with the malefic is going to require a lot more patience. And I would say Saturn can be a lot more of a harsher type of, heavier type of energy. And so it kind of, you have to take it a lot more serious. Literally, all that Saturn is about, you want to, all that patience, the seriousness, the responsibility, you want to embrace that very well. And so what happens then, if you have, again, a Saturn malefic, you want to look at what part of the chart your Saturn is in. Okay? Because a Saturn in, for instance, if you have a Saturn in the 4th, it's the house of the home. Okay, so example here. So the 4th house is the house that rules the home. Everything related to home. And it goes back to early life, so early childhood, or it can be later on in life. So everything around the area of the home and the family there, and the structure of the home, the stability of the home. So if someone has a Saturn in the 4th house, it brings test in that area. Saturn will test for stability. Okay? And so how can that manifest? It has a lot to do with not necessarily like not having, okay, a home. It's more of the stability, the consistency of the home. So the home can change a lot, or there can be a lot of tests that are around the home. So for example, I would say this could be people who have been kind of like abandoned when it comes to early childhood. It could be those who have have had like to go through like a divorce later on in life or early on in life. Okay, that's the way that this manifests into people's lives, okay, which is how we understand someone's horoscope. Okay, so Saturn is definitely a heavier type of energy to work with. But again, there's a way around this, and it is learning about your astrology and evolving with it. And so with that being said, it's kind of like you just want to balance out a lot of the energy that is out of control. So for Mars, it's more like, you have to like embrace being less aggressive, knowing when your impatience, when the impatience is starting to show, because a lot of the tests in your life are going to be literally consequences from the conflicts you create, the conflicts that you continue with other people. While with Saturn, what you're going to be doing is working with embracing actually the positive Saturnian energy and working with discipline, working with stability, and working with things that are greater than you. Okay, so greater than you and that are basically authority. Okay, so that's what those with the night chart malefic will need to understand about their life journey. And this is all having to do with your karma, right? A lot of the karma here, because it's repeating lessons that you have to deal with throughout your life. Okay, now if this is something you want to learn more about, I have my courses on my link. And if there's something that you want to know about your own birth chart, your own astrology, I do offer my birth chart readings and karmic astrology readings that are live. And I go through all of this because this is very important. This is what modern astrology leaves out. You know, modern astrology is basically pop astrology, and it is just, you know, there to kind of like be entertainment. And astrology is not that. Astrology is not just entertainment. Astrology is a wisdom, something to learn from, because with everything in life, there are polarities. In everything in life, there are polarities. There's the good and the bad, right? And, you know, there's an example here. I mean, if, for instance, you were born with Mars at nighttime, well, the Mars then doesn't have this malefic nature. And the Mars will be more